Hi, you guys. Welcome. You are in for a treat. This week, we're talking about children's books, how to write them, get them published, get them illustrated. And I have got the queen bee sitting right in front of me.
Tune in to Go Book Yourself, powered by Helix Interactive, with your book coach and publishing expert, Hilary Jastram.
Today, and we're going to get to her in just a minute. First, we need to pay some bills. I know you're sick of me saying that, but I'm old, so get used to it. Okay. J Hill Marketing, that holy grail that Go Book Yourself loves so much. Head there to get your book done. Stat, a glimmer of an idea, a full first draft, transcriptions, whatever you got, we want them. And we will help you become the author you've been dreaming of for years. Just head to J Hill Mark, that's 2 L's, Hill Mark, J Hill Mark, and send us a message. We would love to hear from you. So without further ado, dudes, I have a guest today. It's a little less lonely in the pandemic studio. Angela Halgrimson is the queen of boogers due to her award-winning Mom's Choice Award, Independent Publisher Book Award, Kids Book. Nobody likes a booger, but I'm telling you what, from the reception, I think people do. Among other engaging books like Lenny the Crow. Before the Hunger Games hit America and the world, back when we were allowed to travel, she would fly all over the place and read her books to delighted, sticky children everywhere. So please give her the warmest welcome to my super special friend who I just love with all my heart. Angela, welcome to Go Book Yourself for the second time in a row.
Thank you so much. Yay! Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor, Hilary. Honestly, it's an honor to be on your show because I absolutely love everything you do. So I appreciate it. And I was even saying I'm a bit nervous. I haven't done this. I've had other Zoom meetings, but not necessarily for my children's book for a while. So it's made me a bit nervous today. And because you're so perfect and wonderful. So.
Oh, yes, perfect. That's me. You know what? I'm wearing a children's shirt. I got it in the Target section.
Best day ever.
So that's not perfect. I'm not. When I started, I was like, I'm going to do this video podcast because I think people are just more engaging when you can see their face. You want to, you kind of pay attention, whatever. And so I started thinking like, oh, I'm going to get this wardrobe and whatever. And I'm like, that's not me, girl. We just got to show up,
Yeah. And if I were to stand up, I could be wearing sweatpants or shorts.
Maybe that is appropriate here as well. We don't know, but that's why I love you because and like we were saying, you're local, so we've actually met each other face to face with our mouths hanging out, which was unbelievable, right?
Before this happened.
Thank you. Thank you for putting that on for my safety.
I know, it must feel weird. Like I do feel like I should be still doing this because we're talking almost face to face. But
yeah, I seriously, I can't wait for this to be done. I think we're in the home stretch, so hopefully.
Here, and I think it's brought out the best of us. And sometimes I think it's not the worst of us, but the frustrations have come out. So, but the good thing is that there's a lot of good things that have come from this, where we will not take anybody for granted anymore when we sit next to them.
Never again.
No.
Never again.
And I love hugs and boogers being wiped on me now from little kids. I will never complain about it again.
so we oh, you crack me up. So I asked you initially, and we got it for the video recording, but let's get it for the audio recording. What is your favorite joke?
Oh, I do like pirate jokes. I think I'm a bit of a pirate at heart and my soul. I'm gypsy kind of. But I love the booger jokes. And when I do go book signings and to classrooms and visit, they always have a booger joke up there for me. And the best one is, how do you get a tissue to dance? You put a little boogie in it.
Do the kids all laugh at that?
Oh yeah. And a lot of times on school visits, the teacher brings out tissue and we just like draw little boogers on it with little green markers and then we all do the booger, dance with our fingers. So it's a lot.
I bet you miss it.
Oh, my heart is just breaking. I just miss it so much. It just, I
Mhm.
feel empty. Like my soul feels empty because I haven't heard giggles in a long time. So, and I'm so appreciative of people when they send me all these videos and all these pictures that they're reading my books to the kids at, in their classrooms. But then in
Yeah.
my heart feels sad because it's like, that should be me. That would be me.
Do you-
And I'm so used to going and traveling everywhere, but
yeah.
just I can't.
One moment while I close my door.
Oh yeah, no problem. And
I forgot to close my door. So
if
this
you
is
hear
like,
noise in the background for me too, we have some construction in the building going on. So
oh, you do? Okay. So you're right there with me.
oh
So
yeah.
okay. So apparently somebody's coming to murder me and the dogs have intercepted that. So if you could just entertain people for 15
Oh
seconds, that would be great.
yes. I can make some origami. Um, some origami. I've not done this in about 12 years, but let me see if I can make something here quickly. Oh yes, I've made an airplane.
Wow. Was that a single engine Cessna?
It
Was that even,
was.
was
Wow,
it?
your origami.
I think I think I made that airplane up. I don't even think it's
Oh.
real. I don't think it's a real airplane. Some pilot out there is going, "You're bashing the industry. This is incorrect."
Or he's going, wow, is she a pilot?
I'm the worst flyer. But so I want to hear about your journey because your journey is really unique. You wrote a book, and I've got lots of people that contact me and they're like, "Hey, I want to write a children's book. What do you know about it?" And I'm like, "Well, if you're talking about young kids, nada. I don't know. I don't know hardly anything. I've done YA books, young adult books that have maybe some illustrations and things like that, but young kids, I don't know the process. I don't know any of it. I don't even know the first step. If somebody said, what is the first step to writing a kid's book? Well, first I want to hear about your story, but then maybe we can get into the steps.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I've always loved writing, and I've always wanted to be a writer and author ever since I was little. When I used to babysit kids, in order for them to go to bed, I would trick them and say, "I'll write you a story with your name in it for a bedtime story, but you're only if you're good and you go to bed. Then otherwise, you're not going to hear it." So honestly, all my life, I feel like I've been writing little short stories. I had a so far I've had two TBIs. The first one, traumatic brain injury,
Okay.
where I have short-term and long-term memory issues. Um, to do a regular job, I could still do my job that I was doing, but it was just becoming tougher and tougher. And then the second one happened, and it kind of took me out of the industry that I was in for my job. And instead of sitting around feeling bad for myself, I basically, I've always been kind of a feisty person, must be the Irish in me. But I just thought to myself, I'm not going to sit around and feel sorry for myself. I have to just reinvent the new me and do something that I've wanted to do all my life because life is fleeting. Life is short. You're never promised tomorrow. And so I started getting out some of my, little short stories that I used to do. And it was funny because when I made the decision that I wanted to be an author and to start writing, I had a dream about my first book. And it literally came to me in a dream. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was writing everything down as fast as I could.
Oh, that's
And then
oh,
I searched out publishing companies and sent my manuscripts out. And it's a tough beast to tame, I will tell you. You have to have some thick skin in any kind of writing field. I don't know how many rejections I had. I actually had rejections that had other people's names on it. That's how bad it was. So
what? And so and this was your first book, Lenny the Crow.
Winnie the Crow, yeah.
Okay.
And I think you just have to have I don't know, I just had this inner thought process that if I couldn't get published, by a traditional publisher, then I'm just going to do it myself. And so
Yeah.
then I found Beaver's Pond, and they're just amazing. And then they helped me find Brian, my illustrator, And when you are self-published, with a traditional publisher, they are huge and they have all this money for marketing. And when you're self-published, boy, you really got to push it. You got to do everything yourself. You're
Yeah.
your own salesperson, you're your own marketing team. Um, and you really have to be all in because it's either a career or it's a hobby. And so I made
Okay.
sure it was going to be a career of mine. And I just did as much as I could to hone it in and to learn as much as I could
So
because
that's
it's tough, especially children's books.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So do you think children's books are harder for a publisher to pick up or a marketer to grab onto than adult nonfiction or fiction books?
That's a tough call because they are so different. And I would say, in a way, yes, because children's books they're more expensive to print, obviously, because you have to have the color on the paper.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think a lot of times publishing companies are limited on how much they're gonna they're gonna accept. And then
Hmm.
when you try and find an agent, that's the same thing because there are so many people that so many agents that are inundated with children's books ideas and so many people wanting to get it out. Not to say that novels and YA and everything else isn't difficult. I just think because of the expense behind it, it makes it a little bit more difficult to be picked up.
Well, that's true. And it's a shorter piece of content too.
Mm.
So that I would imagine the turnaround time is shorter than too.
Yeah, yeah. From my friends in the traditional sense of publishing, when they have contracts, sometimes they're not even contracted out for multiple books. Sometimes they're just contracted out for that one book, depending on how that one book goes. Well, then if the marketing team for that traditional company says, well, we're going to only market you for 6 weeks,
Hmm.
then you've got some problems because if you don't get that out there and that name out there and that book out there within the 6 weeks,
Yeah.
then it's tough. Where novels, they could possibly have that marketing out there a little bit longer just because, with YA and novels, people generally go to what they're interested in. Where children, it's kind of like what the bookstores are interested in and what the bookstores are pushing. So it's really
Yeah.
kind of a hard marketing call.
Yeah, that is. So the process then is you think of the idea,
Mhm.
you write it, and then you have a children's book editor too.
Right.
Okay, so I would imagine this person can do like 15 books at once with how little that content is. As an
Right.
editor, that's just a fascinating thing for me to
Yeah.
think about, like what is that workload like? But so then you have it edited and then you find an illustrator and you
Right.
kind of like blend these things together. Do you have a formatter then who does that, or did your illustrator do the
My
formatting?
So when I went
Okay.
to the publishing company, being in children's, they they have a word count too. You don't really want to go over 1,000. I mean, if you're
Oh,
1,000 words, yeah, you better hope that those kids have got some pretty good, listening skills and they're not just, their attention span goes bye-bye half the time.
yeah.
But the illustrator, well, I'm so grateful for Brian because when he put the words on the page, he does the illustrations and then we would pick the words together, like the font to use, how big, how small, should it be spread out. We really kind of worked together as a team just because I had this all in my head. And he's so great because he, just by talking to him on the phone, he can pick out what I was thinking and then puts it right on the page.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
yeah, and so we worked really well together with Lenny the Crow, and of course I had to have him back for Booger because I can't think of having the Booger one without him.
He does he love it though? He must have just loved it.
Yeah, yeah. I think too, being that he's such an amazing illustrator, he's illustrated so many books and an award-winning illustrator himself, and so he's done so many fun things, and I can't say anything more about him. He's just brilliant.
Oh, that's fantastic. So for the people who contact me now, because I'm kind of doing this show for them because they've always been like, well, give me an answer. What do you got? What's going on? I'm like, I have the queen bee for this. Okay. So the process is that they write the book, they find the illustrator, they find the editor. It all kind of comes together, whether it's their graphic designer or a formatter or something like that. But what's the difference now? Did you self-publish Booger? Because you're in all of these Barnes and Noble stores.
Yes, I did. And because of the success from Lenny the Crow, I
Yeah.
was able to get my name out there. I had a good name, at least, with the people, managers and regional managers of Barnes and
Yeah.
Noble throughout the United States. So when I was able to contact them and say, "Hey, I have another book out. It's Nobody Likes a Booger." Of course, they were like, "Oh, well, send us one to see what it's like, or we'll pick one up through the warehouse and we'll check it out." And I was so grateful. I didn't hear anybody say no. I actually heard a lot of people say this book is needed because boogers are everywhere, and
This-
and the funny thing is that I actually have a huge teacher and nurse following,
I'm sure.
and like doctors' offices. They're like, "Oh my gosh, we have it in the doctor's office," and it's helped us out a lot. But as far as with the manuscripts go, if people are looking for a traditional publisher, don't don't feel bad about getting rejected. Just
Yeah.
get your manuscript out there. Make sure you have a great editor that knows where you're going with your story, especially for children's books because they have to be so condensed.
Oh, yeah.
And get your manuscript out there, send it out. And if you do want to self publish, because I've heard a lot of people come from traditional publishing to self publishing because they want more control,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, really look at who you want to have for a publishing company. Again, I was super grateful for Beaver's Pond. There are so many great publishing companies out there, but I kind of wanted to make sure I had the say and
Mhm.
where my book can go and what I can do with it. So that's one of the reasons why I ended up choosing it to
Well,
go through publishing.
and it's hard to. It's hard to be picked up by a traditional publisher. It's really hard. And so then you have to kind of weigh, well, what am I getting from this traditional publisher versus what am I getting if I self-publish it myself? And of course, you've got the copyright, you've got all the control. But what you did, which I think is really unique because a lot of self-published authors struggle with this, and they're always changing the rules, is that you managed to get into the like a local, not a local, a national bookstore chain.
Right. And it is difficult. You have to, um, well, here's the thing. Barnes and Noble is always ever changing.
Mhm.
Um, as
Mhm.
far as like a large book chain, and Books a Million, the same thing. Now that they have different owners and or COs and everything else that are, it changes all the time.
Yeah.
Managers change, so your contact today might not be your contact tomorrow. But what you need to do is you need to go in, into say Barnes and Noble and get the information to get your book on their shelves. There
Yeah.
is a way that you can do that, but you
Yeah.
have to do your research on it and then fill out, just like at Powell's and all those other bookstores, you fill out the information on your book.
Mhm.
And sometimes they say, "Can you send one to us?" You send it, and then it's their choice to get you in. So it's always worth a try to do that, and hopefully, they'll continue putting it on their shelves if it's selling well.
So you canvassed like the entire United States though, because I mean, sometimes you'll have in my experience, sometimes you'll have a district manager that will say, okay, well, I manage these, 6 stores or whatever. And so I'm going to call the shots here. Sometimes you'll go through the New York office, the corporate office or whatever. But the point is that like not one body governs everything. They're all kind of sprinkled around. And so you must have done just a phenomenal amount of calling and research. And like, I'm just so impressed with you.
It's a career, and that's why I said to myself, this isn't going to be a hobby. I have to put in as much work as possible to make this happen.
Yeah.
And so I did. I canvassed Barnes and Nobles and Books a Million and Powell's and everywhere, And then what I did from there, if I was going and having a book signing at Barnes and Noble, I
Mhm.
would call the local schools in the area and say,
Yeah.
I have a book signing at Barnes and Noble, say at 1 o'clock on Saturday. But I'll be there on Thursday. And usually it's for other business or whatever. But
Yeah.
am I able to stop into your school and do a school visit? Get the kids excited. And just by doing that, I had so many kids. I would have, and I knock on wood when it happens, hopefully again, that I had kids out the door at some point just because there's two different schools
Oh,
that will
wow.
come and see me. And I did a school visit prior to that school event
Oh.
or to the book event. And then I also, besides the chains, I am absolutely in love with local bookstores too.
I know.
So then I would call the local bookstores and say, hey, is there a chance where, say, Friday night I could come in and do a book event, or just come in and sign some books if you're willing to buy them from me.
Right.
And
Right. Right.
more than likely they'll say yes. And I'm very grateful that I won awards because that's kind of a nice push too. That, well, yeah, let me see what books you have. But a lot of times people don't realize it is tiring when you're out there. You are hustling, you are your own salesperson, and you're going to make it or break it. It just depends on how much you want to put in it.
Well, and you really wanted it. And this is what the takeaway is, I think, is you need to make it your career. You
Yeah.
need to say, if I'm writing this book, it doesn't matter what book it is. It doesn't matter if it's a children's book, an adult book, YA, whatever. I don't care if it's like a baby cardboard book. Okay. You have to go all in and make that commitment. There is nothing worse. There's a couple of things worse, not many, than like the anticlimactic. You'll have people that, oh, I published my book. And then maybe they make a little bit of a ripple, but it doesn't really keep going because I think people are afraid. They're
Yeah.
afraid to ask. They're afraid to put their faces on camera. Like today, I just fumbled all over myself. What do I care? My dogs are barking. I'll get up and shut the door. Like I've had to do things twice. So who cares?
You only fail if you don't try.
Exactly. Exactly. And I
And
don't
that's
know if you remember when Facebook first did their lives
oh
and
yeah.
you couldn't like test it. You had to test it live. So you'd be like, okay, you guys, am I on? Is this working? Okay, I'm gonna bring Angela on. Okay, is she in? Okay, can you hear me? Okay, you can't. Okay, what's going on? And like just all live, it was happening.
And honestly, I've never done a Facebook Live. I've never done anything live. And I
Okay.
think it's because of the fact that I can write things down, but I am not tech savvy at all. So if
Oh,
someone's asking me to be tech savvy, we got problems.
well, I mean, you have just a mere coordination of it. It's like I don't even, I don't even know. So, but I think taking a chance
Yeah.
and people don't know what to do, but you have to have a plan. Did you develop your plan as you were writing your book, before or after?
Um, I never really had a plan, honestly. I just had a passion.
Hmm.
So then my passion then became my plan as I was fumbling into roadblocks. And then I was thinking to myself, how am I going to get past this? How am I going to get past this? And so
Yeah.
there's always hurdles. And then I reached out to a couple author friends, and they were like, I can't help you. I have an agent that does all this. And why don't you go for an agent? Why don't you do this? And it's like, well,
Mm,
that would be the easy thing for me to do. I'm going to spend more time now waiting to find an agent where I really just want to keep going. So it is true that with traditional publishers, they have money behind it. They have marketing, they have agents, they can do all this for you, where you can just basically focus on your writing.
right, right.
And but if you don't have that, you have to figure it out on your own. And that's where just reading and Googling. And I've helped a lot of self published authors along the way. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to answer some questions, but it's always ever changing. So I don't even have all the answers. I just know what I did and to help them to get to be, hopefully in the bookstores and have the longevity. I think some people sometimes they feel like they have to keep writing books one on top of each other to be relevant.
Yeah.
No, it just depends how much time you're going to put into that one book. I usually have about a 3 year. Okay, before COVID was hitting, my next book was supposed to be out last spring, but because of COVID, I said to myself, I'm going to hold off on this because I do enjoy having children at book events.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy going into bookstores and having kids get excited and not just doing Zooms and being able to promote it and have schools get excited for authors to come in. So I figured to myself, especially being a self-published author, I really needed to have I don't know, like, oh, sorry, somebody came in. I really needed to have a plan that way where I'm going to hold off and just wait till things get back on track. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm reading, but I think the longevity of the next book, I can still make it work like I did with Lenny and Booger.
That's so awesome. Can you tell us a little bit? Can you do a sneak peeky of what it's about at all? Or
Yeah, actually, this time off, again, this has been the first time I think, and the longest time I've ever been grounded. I say grounded.
your mom's like, no, there was that one time when you did that thing, right?
Yeah, probably. She's like, mm-mm. But I haven't flown anywhere in a year. Actually, it was a year today. I think I got home from my last trip.
Wow.
I'm doing a book event.
Crazy.
I know. So I've spent this time. I've written a few children's book manuscripts,
Mm-hmm.
and the next one that was supposed to be out is about a Yeti, and it's just super silly.
Oh, it sounds so cute.
Excited for it.
What a great subject.
Yeah, yeah. And then the two other manuscripts that I have sitting in front of me right here, that I definitely am going to need your services
Oh,
for editing because that's a huge thing when you send it out either way. I just kind of made a decision too during this COVID event, to think and to be open to agents.
I think you're ready, honestly,
Yeah.
because you've got some traction behind you. So, and you've been able to sustain sales, being in the bookstores. They would love your marketing, and you're adorable too. So it just, and I always tell my authors, like, use what you have. So if you're aesthetically appealing, I expect you to.
My glasses.
Yes.
And my lady colored hairdo.
I love it. And your glasses have anti-glare on them. So those are awesome. I love those.
You can still see my eyeballs?
Yes,
Okay.
I can still see your eyeballs because
Okay.
I have mine right here. And watch this. This is a stupid human trick.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I
like
can see me through you.
yeah, no, like where'd she go? Oh, we can't. So I put my contacts on. These are my readers because and maybe you don't know this, but as you get older and ancient like I am, then what happens is you have to have your contacts, which are progressives. Thank you very much. They're trifocals. And then you have to have readers on top of it. So there's no freedom ever in the whole wide world again.
Oh my goodness. Well,
Yeah.
you look gorgeous. And you know what? I think I'm actually older than you. So there you go.
I don't know about that. I guess we'll have to flip a coin. But no, I think that would be a really good thing to do because the other thing to consider when people are talking about self-publish versus traditional publishing is that you have to be able to sustain the marketing. So if you're not a how am I going to put this? If you're not a Kardashian or you haven't got, tremendous marketing behind you, you've done phenomenally well with Booger, with Lenny. So they would pick you up, but you've built that base. And so from that base, then you can move to the next step higher. If you're starting at the bottom, it is very hard for a publisher to feel that, not that you're not worth it, man, because you are,
Well,
but
everybody is worth it. If you have a story to tell, you're
yeah,
worth it.
right. But in the publisher's eyes, they're going to say, well, how is this going to make money back for me? That's the biggest thing. That's all they're thinking about is money. That's why, as you said, don't take it personally. Do not take it. It just has nothing to do with how good your story is, how good you are as a writer. It really is like getting into business with somebody, and then they're saying, well, this doesn't make sense for us because we don't see the possibility of profit right now, or of enough profit right now.
And that's the thing that is frustrating for a lot of startup authors. And Madonna can write a children's book and have it published yesterday.
Right.
I'm not saying anything about her book if it's good or bad. I haven't read it, but
wait. That was not hypothetical. She has a children's book.
She has a children's book. Yeah.
Oh my God. Like P is for pointy boobs. I don't know. Exactly.
V is for Vogue. I mean,
right. Exactly. Like,
but she does. She has a children's book, and it is frustrating for some of us that have really. I mean, we've pushed it. We've gone into the trenches, and we've done what we could. But we will never have enough marketing in this world that unless the traditional publishers, and this is another thing too.
Yeah.
Unless you are the golden child of the month, they're going to put all that money in the marketing behind you.
So true.
And so you could be a published author through a traditional publisher.
Yeah.
You only get 6 weeks of marketing, and then next.
Oh,
so you
yes.
be your own marketer anyways. It's not just sitting back at a desk and letting everybody just do the thing. You still have to have your book events. You still have to call. You still have to make sure that when your editor or when your agent is on to the next person, that you're still able to have that longevity and still keep going, because it's not just that easy. What it is easy is that, yes, you have the money, they buy your rights, and then you can sit back and enjoy your time writing where you're not doing the hustle and bustle.
Right.
But with that too, I've also heard when you're self-published, you have to do the hustle and bustle, but you still keep the money and the marketing behind it, where you're using the money that the traditional publisher has sent you to market.
Yes. So
it's still a circle.
It is a circle. So it's not like you get this big fat check and then you waltz off and then you're not going to be doing anything. When you're an author, regardless of genre, you are expected to be a marketer. You are expected to make calls. You are expected to show up places. You are expected to carry a case of books in your car. Like you're expected to continually. Have you done this thing too? I wonder, you know how they have those little libraries all over the place? Have you done that? Have you gone and put your books in there?
The little library?
Yeah,
I have. And actually, it's so funny because I was on a road trip, and this was in Wisconsin. And gosh, I can't remember what city it was now. It was near Eau Claire. And I stuck a book in there. And it was so funny because not more than a day later, I get a blip on Instagram that there's this little girl holding my book, and and in front of the little library thing, and they tagged me on it and said she's so excited for this book.
Oh.
And and the mom was like, oh, I don't know, she's gonna have a hard time putting it back.
Well, we'll work on that. Well, but that's fine. No big,
No, that's the fun part, is seeing kids with my books and hearing them giggle. That's the best sound in the world.
Oh, I think you're really fortunate, honestly.
Very fortunate.
You know, and I know you feel that way. And that's amazing. So tell me about cost. I also have people asking me about cost. What does it cost? What does an illustrator cost? What's an appropriate number for the formatter? I mean, we're pricing the books, and I don't know the range either in children's books, or the cost to publish, how much the editor is. I'm curious about all those things.
So it just depends, honestly, because when you write your manuscript, you want to send it to an editor or do your best before you bring it to a publishing company or a self-publisher, because even though they have an editor online or that they're going to help you with, you still want to present your stuff decently.
You do. And you know what? I want to add to that. I want to say that even if you can't afford an editor or you don't know one or whatever the case is, have someone else read
Yeah,
it.
right. And they don't have to switch it up. They don't have to take things and move things around, which a lot of editors will do.
Yeah.
They just need make sure your spelling is correct and you're on point with your grammar.
Oh my God.
Uh,
It's so true.
and
It's
I'm so lazy. I'm so lazy that I need an editor. I actually need an editor just to sit behind me and go grocery shopping with me. That's how lazy I am with the writing because I am, for one, dyslexic. So half the time
oh,
I write out like I'm writing like Yoda. Yoda's my master. So
I
it's
love
like,
Yoda.
I know. And so I always am like, I need somebody to look at this before I even send it out to anywhere.
Absolutely.
But so that could be a charge. That could be a something there. And then you have your publishing company, and they range too. Illustrators range differently. But then again, you probably will have to have another editor the that the publishing company is connected with because they need to make sure that that kind of falls in line with it too. And
Yes.
then you go to a printer
Yes.
after I mean, I'm sorry, the illustrator could also do the graphics and everything else for the book, but you might have another thing with that too.
Yeah.
And then it goes to the printer. So you have the printing costs. Now, if you want it soft cover or if you want it hardcover,
Oh
that's going to be kind
yeah.
of the that could be kind of pricey too. So, and then when you get that back, there's your book. It could cost anywhere between 10 to 20,000 on a book,
Okay.
on a children's book.
For all of those services, and then are you including like printing a run of like 100 or 200 books in that, or is that that's a totally separate thing?
That could be maybe a run of anywhere between 500 to 1,000. It just depends
Okay.
because every printer is different, and especially now after COVID, you just really don't know. It's
Yeah.
to the point where everything is when everything started going digital too. The
Uh,
printers started really struggling because costs went up because not they weren't able to shovel as many books out either.
so are you an ebook or your books ebooks too for kids?
No, I'm so old school. I just there is something about it with children's books and having a copy in kids' hands.
Yeah, I
And
can understand that.
I know everybody's like, "Oh, you can reach so many more kids. You can do this or that." For me, I think my kid my kids, okay, especially my youngest, he grew up in the bookstore with me going around and doing book events and everything else. And one of
What a lucky duck. Oh
I
my
know.
gosh.
He grew up having like every single Barnes and Noble treat there is, honestly.
Oh, sure. Like, and here's your scone. Well, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And he just felt he was the king because they were like, oh, let me, this is for free, this little brownie thing. And he's like, oh, no.
What? My
But
mom's the coolest ever.
yeah, no, he still doesn't think that. No, even
Oh,
like, he was like, out the door once and he's like, I wonder what the line is for. And I'm like,
oh,
I don't know.
dude.
Me? No.
No,
So
you're right. It's
yeah,
not. It's
no,
something
no,
else.
yeah, yeah. So I'm not cool by any means to either one of my kids. But
Well, we're the same then. I'm
yeah,
so uncool. It's not even funny.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think all moms can feel that way and
Mhm.
maybe dads too, but it's life. But the thing with them, I just think it's important for kids to visit bookstores,
Yeah.
that they know that there's so many when you walk into a bookstore, there's so many stories sitting there. There's
Love
so
it.
many adventures sitting there. And when I would bring my son and his friends to the bookstore with me, I would tell them that like go pick an adventure. Go see who you can be. Put your feet in someone else's shoes for a little bit.
Oh, I love that. I
And
love
I think
that.
that's where a lot of empathy comes in with kids. And I think that's where I feel that kids can get another perspective of life reading a
Yeah,
book through someone else's eyes. And
absolutely.
so I'm kind of weird about that, where I kind of like it when kids go in there and they smell the books, the pages and the paper, um, textile, they can hold on to it. Not saying that I'll never be on because I love ebooks too. Ebooks are great when you're traveling and keeping kids occupied in cars. We had them. but I'm just
We
kind of old school that way yet.
That's true. That's true. We did have some semblance, I think, as we started. Well, when I was raising my kids, they had like we have some semblance now, but when I was raising my kids, they had like these super blocky, like I don't know, they had stuff like Tamagotchi, like
Oh yeah,
keep your
yeah,
baby chicken alive or whatever. And then it was
yeah.
really sad because it would be like, Mom, I killed my thing after 3 days. I killed my robot chicken or whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't know what I can't, I'm not
Yeah.
God in the Tamagotchi game. I don't know how to
I'm,
resuscitate.
I had a pet rock, so I can't help you.
Yeah.
It didn't die.
Like,
He's out.
we yeah, we didn't have digital. We don't even, yeah, crazy, crazy.
Well, we had the Oregon Trail, and
Oh
I do remember
yeah.
doing that, and I was like, yes, be jealous. I kicked your butt. I survived, you know. But
And
I mean, probably no clothes and no food left, but I still survived.
no, you did not die of dysentery. That was always the funny thing. Like, you have died of dysentery. And we're all like rushing to the dictionary. Like, what's
Yeah,
dysentery? You know?
exactly. That's the thing. I told my son earlier, I'm like, you guys have Google. I had literally I had a dictionary and I was like, how do you spell that? And you know, it was hard for me too because I had a hard time with spelling. So of
I'm
course I
sure.
pretty much carried a dictionary like a boombox on my shoulder so I could
That
do
is
it at
so
home.
sexy.
Yeah,
Sexy. Where people like, look at her. Wow.
what a nerd.
You know what? Don't feel bad because I have several dictionaries and thesauruses that are all dog-eared and everything, and they're like old school and they're in my office. So don't feel bad. I think those are badges of honor, honestly.
Sure.
And it just sets you apart as a special person that you
Yeah,
care and you love words that much that you actually had to have them part of you on your person.
I think so too. I'm the M&M of the book world.
You are that. Oh my God. There's your meme right
Very
there. Exactly.
just for rhyming words.
I love it. Well, I'm so glad you were on today and thank you for sticking with me through our technical difficulties. It has just been wonderful. And I know you were bringing a lot of value to people who are trying to, especially in COVID, they're home, their minds are going, they want to create, they want to leave a legacy and all of these things. So I know that you brought a lot of value to them and I'm just so grateful for you, Angela.
Thank you. I'm very grateful to be here and to just, you know, try to get out there what I've learned. Everything
Mhm.
is always ever changing, but
Yes.
in the traditional sense of publishing, it's kind of always stayed the same.
It's interesting. It
Yeah,
has. It's it's certainly adapting, I think, but there's definitely like the toeholds that they have in the traditional world are still there and we just have to know how to play in that world. But even more so, we have to know if we want to play in
right.
that world and what's best for us. So, I had no idea about some of these things that you were talking about today. I mean, I can talk about the other genres, pretty deeply, but I didn't know, how it went with a children's book. It's a totally different process. And the editors are different too. You typically have, different editors. I think for those kind of polar opposite genres, you would have a different editor
Right.
versus, I'm used to like a ton of content and a lot of copy. That's just
Yeah,
kind of what my jam is.
I can only imagine. I don't know. I give credit to editors all the time that have, you know, more than like 1,200 words because I would probably glaze over half of them.
You do feel like a glazed donut. At the end of the day, you're just like, okay, I got to walk away and I got to do something stupid. And so I do, and I don't like that S word, but genuinely, I do something that provides zero value to anybody anywhere. And I'll play I play this Disney game. Don't judge me.
I love Disney.
Yes, I play this Disney game and it's so mindless. Like I don't have to think about anything, but at the same time, you're in your subconscious. So whatever you're trying to like marinate through in life is allowing you to process it while you're not thinking about it.
I think that's important for everybody. I have two brain injuries. So for me,
Yeah,
I that decompress my mind by doing something frivolous because
right.
yeah, it's almost a meditation for me by just kind of like putting myself into something else. So But, you know,
Mhm.
honestly, for anybody who's listening and looking at this, don't give up, because that's
Yeah.
the big thing. Don't give up, no matter how much if you have a passion for it, you will make it happen, and
Mhm.
you just have to have the passion for it.
Yes, you have to have the passion and you don't have a choice, by the way, because the second that idea hits and you want to do something with it, it's going to haunt you
Yes.
until you
Yes.
either decide, I'm done, I don't want to have anything to do with this, or you're going to go for it.
Yeah. And that's what I said too, like from this COVID business. I said, you know what, I think it's just time where now I'm shifting to another part of life where I want to reach out to agents, because
Yes.
I think the rat race of me doing a lot of stuff is just kind of, I'm kind of past that now, and I just want to focus on more writing and different genres. I have a novel that I've been trying to get out forever. And it's sci-fi romance kind of thing, and
Ooh.
I think it would be fun to be able to just start to focus on that instead of all the other things that we talked about,
Yeah. Yeah.
sales and marketing and everything else.
Yeah, pour yourself into that passion.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your time. And I just am a huge fan of you, and I just
I'm a
love you to
fan of
be.
you. So thank you. It's mutual. Thank you.
It's a mutual fandom. So, and everybody else listening today, thank you so much for tuning in. And we know that you found tremendous value. We'll have information about Angela and where you can find her and all her books and all of her amazingness. Until next time, you're all set. And this chapter has closed. It's time to go book yourself. Authors, right on.